Welcome to the Rocky Top Rewind every Sunday night during football season, 9 o'clock Eastern Time here on the Volquest.com YouTube channel. I am Eric Kane, that is Brent Hubbs, and the Rocky Top Rewind is presented each and every week by our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers, a free consultation if you pick up the phone today and dial 423-245-4185. That is 423-245-4185. For a free consultation, Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Again, I'm Eric Kane, Brent Hubbs. Tennessee, a 45-26 winner over Syracuse in the season opener. It was expected. You and I are going to react to it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to take questions here for the next hour. So if you guys are watching and have any questions, go ahead and please top those in. We're saving them off to the side, and we'll work through those questions over the course of the next hour or so. But a lot of good to talk about. Again, I keep saying expected. Tennessee was, in my opinion, expected to kind of comfortably win. It wasn't perfect by any means, but Tennessee came out there and did what it was supposed to do, and the end result was a 19-point victory.
Well, I think the phrase I'm using, and everybody knows I like my phrases, right? Stacking days and all those things that everybody wants to latch on to and give me a hard time about, which is fine. This is a jumping off point, and I think Tennessee's jumping off point to start the season was good. Obviously, you have to have a win to jump off the right way, but I think there's a lot of things, and you may disagree with me here, but I think there's a lot of things, I don't think you do because I read your four downs, but there's a lot of things that from the jumping off point within that were really good for Tennessee, not just in the terms of the stat sheet or this, but what you take away from winning your first game and kind of how Tennessee went about the process of winning that first game. That's kind of as I look at it and I review it, I rewatch it, I look at the stat sheet, all those things. That's kind of what jumps out to me is not just that they won, but it's what all was involved in winning in terms of number of young guys that played, some adversity you had to go through, all the things that Josh Heupel can use moving forward with his football team. That's what I sort of took away from it after I rewatched it. What was your takeaway, Eric, when you looked at – I know you had your four downs, but dive into them a little bit deeper there. What you played football. I mean, what is your takeaway from getting a season-opening win in the fashion that Tennessee did?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee was certainly dominant at times. I thought the first half Tennessee jumped up to 17-0 lead, 24-7 lead, and I think they allowed only a little over 40 yards rushing in the first half. I think as the game went on, because of the injury situations, specifically on the defensive line and the interior, defensive tackle, linebacker at points and times, corner, I thought Tennessee didn't finish the game defensively the way we would have liked. But certainly when you look at the game as a whole, defense scored a touchdown. Defense had an interception. You were +2 in the turnover. That led to 14 points. You had 5 sacks, which was really, really good. Now, again, as the game went along, I thought that they ran the football a little bit better than they should have, that being Syracuse. But because you had 5 sacks, for minus 27 yards, your overall rushing total for the Orange was 103. I think that's a good number. I thought some players stepped up and made some big plays. Colton Hood was fantastic. I liked what I saw from Ty Redmond. I thought Nathan Robinson was as disruptive as anybody on the defensive front in that first half. He made a couple of big-time plays. And then offensively, of course, what's not to like about Joey Aguilar? I know we're going to talk about him a lot, but he went out there. I thought the coaching staff did a really good job of keeping things simple for him, keeping things pointed towards his strengths. I thought he was able to kind of play off that play action and go play a little bit. We're all going to talk about the 73-yard touchdown bomb to Braylon Staley. That was awesome, but I thought he made some nice off-platform throws. The scramble drill to Star Thomas was really impressive. Tennessee ran the football like I thought they would, 246 yards. I like the fact that Joey Aguilar used his legs, and I like the fact that Tennessee called a little bit of that game for him to use his legs too. So there were positives in all realms of the game. Kickoff, 8 touchbacks. You made a field goal, averaging over 50 yards per punt. Again, you can take things on all 3 phases that you really, really like, even defensively, where you didn't like a lot in the second half, still a lot of positive and a lot of players that played, and that's only going to help them moving forward.
Yeah, there's several questions over here in the chat and just kind of scanning through them, and there's some of it about the defense, and somebody questioned in there. Tommy D said defense got to get better quickly. I'm at a little bit of a quandary, if you will, on just kind of what to take away from the defense. 26 points given up, 3.5 yards rushing in the first half, one of 11 third downs if you take out the third quarter, but it was the three big fourth down conversions that you gave up. If you stop two of those, you take 14 points off the board. And how different do you feel today if it's – I mean, if Boo Carter gets a sack where he should have on fourth down, it's a 45 to 19 win?
Yeah.
45 to 20 win? Do you feel a lot different if that's the case? I'm at a little bit of – I liked a lot that I saw with some of the blitzing linebacker stuff, the secondary a bit. I wonder a little bit with the lead you got in the third quarter, did they get a little passive defensively? Did Tim Banks back the corners and back the secondary up, kind of sort of keep the ball in front of you a little bit and not let Cook or, one of those receivers try to get behind you? Did they play a little more conservative back there? I don't know. I don't know if my expectations were too much for the defense. I don't know if I'm looking at the defense and giving them too much credit for what they got done in this game. I think the defense individually, it's not hard to look at guys and make things, make evaluations or make opinions on that. But as an overall group, what's the takeaway? I mean, to me, I keep coming back to the third down conversions. Or the fourth down conversions. If you don't have those, I think the whole vibe about this thing defensively is different than what a lot of fans have today. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the defense based on what they saw.
I agree. And, AP and I talked about that in the post-game mini-pod. We talked about that on the post-game 2-minute drill. Syracuse went for it on fourth down over 40 times a season ago. They were very aggressive, and that was obviously carried over here in the opener. How many more teams on Tennessee's schedule is going to leave points off the scoreboard, elect to go for it instead of kicking a field goal, essentially risk a turnover on downs as much as Syracuse did the other day? I mean, that was 4 times. Now, the fourth one was late in the game. They had to. But the other 3, I mean, there was chance for them to get some points on the board. One was 4th and 10. I mean, and that one, I guess they were kind of in no man's land. But my point being, how many more teams on Tennessee's schedule is going to go for it on fourth down that much? Probably not many. So, yeah, in that respect, I think Tennessee just needs to get off the field. What hurts is Syracuse made you pay. They converted on the first fourth down. 2 plays later, they scored a touchdown. On the second fourth down, 2 plays later, they scored a touchdown. On the third fourth down conversion, they scored 5 plays later. So they made you pay. And I think you absolutely feel different about this game if those touchdowns are wiped off the board. So that's part of it, though, right? I mean, you talk about the good, you got to take in the ugly, you got to take in the bad, and that's part of it.
Yeah, you got to make the play. I mean, you got to make those plays. I think the other thing too that probably jumps out a little bit is that last, I guess it was the last scoring drive that Syracuse had to get them to 26. 14 plays, 88 yards, took 5:19 off the clock. I think they ran it something like 6 of the last 7 plays of that drive. I think that one kind of stands out to you, that you felt like you got pushed around a bit up front. And that's a concern because you have, Davin Hobbs, who you're not going to get back for a couple more weeks anyway, probably post-Georgia. We'll see. You don't know where exactly you are with Jackson Moy right now, right? I mean, what does that look like? I mean, he puts out the tweet tonight and he deletes it, and you can speculate and read into the tweet what that means. And, is he going to be out for an extended period of time? Is he going to be out a week? We'll see. I mean, I said this last night when everybody was asking and just kind of talking to people in the program. It didn't feel like it was anything of great significance, but I've also seen those types of injuries where you didn't know about it until Sunday. You didn't know about it until Sunday or Monday because you had to go get an MRI or you had to go look.
Keenan Peely was like that in 23, wasn't he?
Sunday. It was Sunday before you had any idea that there was any kind of seriousness. I mean, and so I'm not suggesting that there is, but I think there's wonder there about exactly what that looks like. And you saw what this defensive front looks like without Moy in there. They're certainly missing Hobbs. I thought Nathan Robinson did good things, but he's not 100%. And so now you're looking at what do your bodies look like in that deal? Does Bailey have to go inside? What do you have to do to kind of help yourself? I think Ethan Utley's got a big upside Eric, but in my rewatch, he looked like a freshman.
Yeah.
It looked like a freshman inside who was playing too high. It's what it looked like to me on a rewatch, and what little bit I could isolate on him. I don't know what your takeaway was from those defensive linemen outside of Bryce and Eason and those young defensive linemen. They didn't play a ton of them, but I don't know what your takeaway was. It looked like Utley got some lessons in what college football is all about.
Yep, I would agree with that. I would agree. I would say Jamal Wallace is in that category for a couple of plays. You know, he played 22 plays. That's probably more snaps than he thought he was going to get. And I know they like him and they think he can play, but I think at points in times he was like that as well. Yeah, what do you do at defensive tackle right now? Again, we'll see about Moy. Hobbs will be back in a few weeks. What I do know right now is Dominic Bailey played 66 snaps, and he started at end, and he played a ton of tackle. And that's fine. I don't mind him playing tackle at all. What I do mind is, you know, Jeremy Pruitt's defensive line played 60 to 70 snaps. They had like a 5-6 man rotation. 66 snaps is like Amari Thomas 2021 a lot. Like that's Rodney Garner doesn't want to do that. So you want to avoid that. And how do you avoid that? Ethan Utley, as you pointed out, Isaiah Campbell didn't play in this game. Josh Snell didn't play in this game. I think Nathan Robinson would have played even more snaps if he didn't go out. He went out twice with injury, but they got to figure that out because I do think that played a role into the second half, them kind of getting pushed around a little bit, especially on the ground, and that's not what you want to see. You look down there in the fourth quarter, Brent, one of those drives, it might have been part of that drive you were talking about, 88 yards, and they ran down Tennessee's throat. You got like right to left on the defensive line. You've got Herring, who is a veteran but hadn't played an awful lot until now. You got Herring, Utley, Wallace, Weathersby, or maybe West or whoever it was. You got Ben Bolton. You got Ains out there at points in times. I mean, it was a very youthful front seven, and I don't think they mind playing those guys. I don't think they want to play all those guys at the same time, and that's where you were at points in time yesterday. So got to get your guys healthy. I mean, let's be real here. This weekend, ETSU, if there's any inkling that those guys can, rest and get back for Georgia, they're going to rest them, right? This is a chance for those young guys to play against ETSU, but you got to get those guys as healthy as possible for 2 weeks when Georgia comes to town.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're right. I think the biggest takeaway is you had some combinations in there you probably weren't expecting to end up getting into. You play a young guy with some veterans, not play two young guys at the same time. And they ended up, because of where they were with the injury stuff, playing a bunch of young guys kind of all at the same time, whether it's on the defensive front or throw the linebackers in there as well. I mean, they certainly missed Arion Carter for about a quarter in the second half. That changed things. I think that helped Syracuse's run game as well. So that's where I'm at with the defense. And I guess that's I went about 10 minutes trying to get to this point is you have to factor those things in there, but that also tells you, man, you got some young guys that got to grow. They got to grow quickly to get the depth and how you want it to be there. But they've got to get healthy, and they've got to stay healthy in some critical spots for sure.
Joshua gave us a $2 super chat. Joshua, we appreciate that. His question is, are offensive struggles at time more to do with Joey Halsley since Alex Golish isn't here anymore? Offense hasn't been as fast, or do you think yesterday was a quality win? We can talk about years past, but I mean, yesterday, man, I love what the offensive staff did with Joey Aguilar. I mentioned this in my four downs. I know you mentioned this as well in some of your pieces. I love the uses of the running backs in the passing game. I love the uses of Joey Aguilar and his legs, putting multiple tight ends out there at the points of time. I thought they did a really good job making Joey Aguilar comfortable and feeling at home a little bit. So, I mean, it wasn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but I thought for one game yesterday, I mean, I like some of those wrinkles you wrote about. There's foundation for even more wrinkles and more looks, from here to come. I thought the offensive coaching staff had a really, really good game plan and a really good day yesterday. And nobody had a better day than Glenn Ellerby. We can talk about the offensive line as well, but man, that offensive line was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great look. Let's take Joey Aguilar out of the transfer portal equation and the talk of the transfer portal. I think it's a really fun question to say who was a bigger get for Tennessee, Colton Hood or Wendell Moy?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. And watching the game back, Wendell Moy is a dude. That is a dude in there at guard. He is a lot more, 330 pounds. He's a lot more athletic than I thought. And, my takeaway on the offensive line, one, obviously cross-training pays off because you got to move guys around everywhere. But my other takeaway in terms of what this offensive line can do, you don't see a ton of offensive lines that can pull from all 5 positions. And Tennessee can pull at all 5 positions on the offensive line. Both their guards can pull. They can pull the center. They can pull the tackles. You can run that pin and pull action where you pull 2 guys if you want to. They have as much flexibility to get into that trap pulling game in their run game as they've ever had, I think, under Josh Heupel, because they can really get some guys out there and run. I just – there's no way – I know Glenn Ellerby is going to tell you, man, I got a ton of stuff to clean up and we're this and that. There's no way Glenn Ellerby was not happy with 243 yards or whatever it ended up being.
46.
46 and no sacks.
Yeah.
No way he was not pleased with that. Now, to the poster's point about the question, I think they kind of gave up a series in the third quarter with that 18-point lead, and I appreciated him getting him in the game, but you had the 2 back-to-back run plays with DeJuan Morris where nothing really happened there. And then you put yourself in a 3rd and 8. That's a quick 3 and out that you get yourself into there. And then they had a 3rd and 4 that they failed to convert in the third quarter. They didn't stay on the field for a couple of those drives. That 3 and out, I think, was not a really good play. Was not a really good drive there.
And I think one of those drives, it might not have been 3 and out, but it was the one early in the third quarter. They were backed up in their own territory, and William Satterwhite in there at center. It was almost like that was forced. It's like, okay, if you're up 17-0 and you want to give William Satterwhite, who was in the competition to be your starting center, some run, that's fine. But wasn't one of the negatives against him in fall camp is just getting the snap down, putting him in there at the 4-yard line, backed up?
It's an interesting, and again, I mean, you look out there and they just had some different combinations out there that they played with, and I think they wanted to do that all along, and then they got into some different combinations because of injury that they didn't expect. But the other thing too about the tempo, and I don't know if I can keep it in my mind to chart it or not, but there were 3 occasions I can recall that Tennessee was playing with some tempo and they threw a ball to their sideline, our running back bounced it out to their sideline, got knocked out of bounds into the Tennessee bench area, and you can't go fast. And so 3 times, just by where the direction the play went and where it ended up out of bounds, it stops you from going fast. And I don't know that people recognize and acknowledge how many times that happens. And it seems to happen at some inopportune times because you're in a pretty good rhythm, and then all of a sudden, well, you can't go fast here. They had another play where they were trying to go fast, and obviously Syracuse had an injury there for a guy who went out for a play and came right back in. So, I mean, it is harder to go fast. I do like what I'm with you. I like some of the wrinkles that we saw yesterday in the offense.
Jesse Perry. Somebody was asking about Jesse Perry, and that. I hate that David Sanders couldn't play yesterday. I really do. And, Josh Heupel said post-game, we put it on the board. We got down there and we're in pregame. We're taping the 2-minute drill and everything's going great. We look over. David Sanders is in street clothes and we're like, all right, let's redo this 2-minute drill. He suffered an injury in practice on Wednesday, and it sounded like he was very close, in conversations before the game, and then Heupel said it after the game. It sounded like he was very close, to playing, but end up holding him back, and he'll likely make his debut with the stakes are not so high against ETSU. That'll be a nice kind of ease him in moment. But nonetheless, you saw your plan B. You and I have talked about this several times. What do you do if there's injury at tackle? And if somebody's helmet falls off or somebody misses a series, Bennett Warren might go in there and spell him. But if you're going to have one of those tackles missing an extended period of time, what do? And yesterday it was David Sanders. And so you went in, you bumped Jesse Perry out. You flipped Wendell Moy over from left to right guard. You brought in Sham. And that offense nearly had 500 yards of offense. Again, I don't want to call them the JV line because there's 4 starters there, but that was your plan B combination. And it looked really good. I mean, that's a good feeling if you're the offense. That's a great feeling if you're Glenn Ellerby. And for Sham, that's got to be a great feeling knowing like, hey, I went in there and I did my thing.
Yeah, well, what I took from yesterday, based on their play and based on what they did at the center position, they feel comfortable with seven guys.
Yeah.
They feel really comfortable where they are with seven guys that they feel like they could go rotate and put somebody in there at any point if they needed to, which is where you want to try to get to. You'd like to get a little deeper than that, but I mean, if that's not your best five that played yesterday, then you feel pretty good about your best five whenever you get those guys out there. I do want to say this about David Sanders. I mean, that is an injury, and that was a medical decision by the medical staff on him being cleared or not being cleared to play. So I don't want anybody to assume or try to suggest anything otherwise. I do think that he should be back this week. It's important to get him back because you don't want him to get his feet wet against Georgia. You would like for him to get some action before then, and they will certainly get the opportunity to do that this week.
Donovan with a $10 super chat. Donovan, we really appreciate you, man. He says, if our receivers would have caught the ball, Joey's numbers would have been even better. Everyone wants Mike to be our wide receiver one. I just don't see it. I want to see more of Travis Smith or Darius Jackson. Smith got in there for 3 series. He got one ball thrown to him, and it was high. I thought Aguilar was inaccurate high during the game, especially early on. But I will say this, there were some that were high that his receivers could have helped him out with and didn't. Brazel dropped one that was right in the breadbasket. You got to catch it out here, right? Let me coach you, right? Catch it out here. Drop the ball, and that was disappointing. But I thought overall, that group missed a lot of time in fall camp. It should get better. Braylon Staley, boom, in that slot position. He had the big 73-yard reception. That was awesome. What did you think about the wide receivers for Joey Aguilar yesterday and how they kind of affected his line? Because I don't want to act like Joey Aguilar was perfect. He was missing high. They even talked about that on the broadcast when I went back there and watched it today. But I do think that there were some that his receivers could have helped him out with.
Well, I think there's a couple of things to look at with that. And I know some people are on the board talking about, what I said, and I guess in the day after, whatever. I think Joey played well. I think Joey had a good first game. My belief, yes, were there a couple of balls that hit guys in the hands that they drop? Yeah. But when you're throwing a wide receiver screen or you're throwing a flare pattern out, something like that, that ball, for that play to work, you got to hit them in the right spot with that one. Just because it hit the receiver's hands doesn't mean it was a great throw on those particular type plays. Now, Brazel had a drop. Mike Matthews had a drop. Both those were catchable balls that you should have caught. That could have been, one of them, the Brazel play could have been a huge play for you. My takeaway from the receivers is they got open. My takeaway from the receivers is they dropped 2 to 3 balls that I think they should have caught. I also think there were 2 to 3 passes, maybe 4, that Aguilar threw out in the flats that should have been more accurate to give it a chance to have a play. So both need to be better. But I do think the receivers, showed some ability to get open, but they're going to be tested more. They've got to grow. I mean, they've got to get better over the course of the next 2 weeks. But I do think they're talented. I don't think you can. I want to see more I would like to see Travis Smith targeted a little bit this week and see what he can do and try to get him going a little bit more. But I'm not down on Mike Matthews. I think Mike's going to watch tape and he's going to see that deep ball and feel like technique-wise he should have played that one different to at least get the pass interference penalty there and the drop he should have had. But I loved what he did on that first catch. I love the way they got him the ball on the move on that first catch. I think that was a nice wrinkle, and that was a nice start to the game by Mike Matthews.
General here wants to know about Aguilar's performance and your thoughts on that. I'll give my 2 cents first, and I know we kind of touched on it several times, and you have as well. I thought the coaching staff did a really nice job getting him settled in, letting him go out there and play, but calling things to his strength and his skill set. And I thought he was cool, calm, and collective. He's 24 years old. He's never been on this stage, but he certainly played a whole lot of football, and I thought that showed yesterday. I thought for the most part he didn't put the ball in harm's way. There was a slant to Ethan Davis, right there on the goal line to where the linebacker got up there with 2 hands. Maybe that's an interception, but for the most part, I thought he took care of the football for sure. It's a starting point, or it's a landing, whatever phrase you used earlier.
Jumping off.
Yeah, it's something you can build on. And you had the stats. You were telling us in the group chat like that was the best, or maybe it was in your 10 things I think going into the weekend. That was the best stat line for a Tennessee starting quarterback here under Josh Heupel in the opener.
And their first career start, yeah.
First career start, and not the opener, their first career start under Josh Heupel. So it's something really good to build on. I mean, they ran some things out of pistol. They called his number on third down. They tried it later in the game with a sweep, and I love the call. They didn't get it, but I like the call. I like his ability just to tuck it and run. Big 25-yard gain on the second drive that led to points. Those screen passes were nice, beautifully designed, I thought. And they were nice calls, but they were well executed with Wendell Moy, man, he clocked somebody on that Deshaun Bishop one early in the game. So anyway, it just kind of looked different yesterday. Does this mean that Tennessee's offense is going to go back to 2022, scoring 46 points per game? I'm not saying that. Certainly Georgia's defense is going to be significantly better than Syracuse's defense, but it looked a little different. It looked good, and I thought Joey looked very comfortable, and I thought it was just a really solid starting point.
I thought there were 3 plays in particular with Joey, and he made more than 3, so don't get me wrong. But I thought 3 plays kind of highlighted Joey Aguilar from the standpoint of what excites me about him and what he can do. The first one for me was the deep ball to Braylon Staley. And not because, hey, they committed a deep ball. They didn't overthrow it, which I know there was a lot of talk about that because, Nico overthrew him and that type of thing. It was the ball placement there and the way he was in rhythm and on time, delivering it out of play action, but where he put the ball. Middle of the field was wide open, right? The safety had rolled over to Mike Matthews' side. So you've got all that green grass in the middle of the field to work with. So what did you do? You threw Staley in towards the open area in the middle of the field to make that an easier catch, an easier throw, and an easier catch. That's the play of a 24-year-old. That's the play of a guy who's thrown deep balls and understands when I've got green grass to work with and room that I can help my receiver out, let me help my receiver out. That was a mature, I've done this a lot play. Stood out to me. I've talked for 6 months, 8 months about Tennessee in the red zone. They got to be better in the red zone. He made 2 plays in the red zone that are the types of plays your quarterback has to make in that area of the field. The first was a scramble play to Star Thomas. Give Star Thomas credit. He played that play like a wide receiver, which you don't see a lot of running backs do to create himself to get open. But Aguilar's eyes never left the field. He could have run it, but he had his eyes open to see what was out there for him, and he made a really good play. That's a 24-year-old play. That's not a sophomore play or a freshman play. And then the last one was the touchdown to Miles Kitselman, which everybody will go, well, that's the easiest play. But if you go back and watch that, there's a free rusher coming at him. And instead of him bailing out, pivoting out, or whatever, he took about a step and a half backwards to buy himself an extra second or so because he knew he had to wait a fraction for Kitselman to clear on that play. And because he backed up and bought himself a little time, he was able to get the pass to Kitselman for a touchdown. That's a 24-year-old guy's play. Those 3 plays to me were true, real quarterback plays. He did some other stuff that was really good, so I don't want to say that was really only 3 good plays. But for me, those are the 3 highlight plays that gives you the feeling of this guy's got a chance to really help you because he can make some plays.
I agree. It was exciting. 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a quarterback rating of 122.6, or actually I think it was higher than that. Nonetheless, good starting point. We'll continue the conversation with Joey Aguilar and Tennessee. 1-0, a season opening win over Syracuse in the Athletic Kickoff Challenge. More to come here. 30 more minutes on the Rocky Top Rewind. Continue to get those questions in. Type them in. We'll star them. We'll talk about them. And we'll have some fun here. 30 minutes left here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Derek Kane here. I want to tell you about our friends, our proud presenting sponsor of the Rocky Top Rewind. That is Spivey King and Spivey LLP. They're back for another year, and we couldn't be more thankful. Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, and Richard Dave Spivey. They do a fantastic job, and they can do a fantastic job for you if you have that need. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T.N. Trial Lawyers, they specialize, in criminal defense, family law, personal injury, examples of which can be DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injuries such as car wrecks, accidents, injuries, and so much more. Over 80 years of combined experience. Spivey King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts of Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. Practice has been in place for 43 years. This specific partnership since 2012, also having partners who are energized and ready for today's modern legal demands. They practice primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas. The firm has won multiple awards and have attorneys who have been rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, custody of your children, or have been accused of a crime, Spivey, King & Spivey, they can help you. Go see them in person today at Cherokee Street, 142 Cherokee Street, Kingsport, Tennessee, or pick up the phone today for a free consultation, 423-245-4185. That is 423-245-4185, or check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. Big thank you to our presenting sponsors, Spivey, King & Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. And another shout out to Game Time, who's a part of the Rocky Top Rewind as well. Game Time, the app, tons of advantages to the fans. Actually, they give the advantage back to the fans because buying tickets for a sporting event, not just sporting events, could be an entertainment event, a concert, whatever. Sometimes it's more work than the actual game itself, right? You're sitting in the queues, endless hours, surprise fees at checkouts, things you didn't know you're paying for, and Game Time, again, gives that advantage back to the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets, experiences, in just a few taps. It's an incredibly easy to use app. The Game Time guarantee, right? It means you can trust them. They're going to get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. Also, you can see the seat that you're going to be purchasing before you actually purchase said seat. So you're going to know exactly what you're getting. You're going to see the views from your seats before you actually pay for it. What other place gives you that option, right? Game Time can do it as well. They have priority fees that are included, knowing your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Zone deals, you can save even more when you choose a section. You let Game Time choose the seats for you. They've got the lowest price guarantee. This might be the biggest one, right? They're going to credit you 110% of the difference if you found a cheaper ticket somewhere else in the same section. So many reasons to check out Game Time this football season, so go ahead and do it for Saturday. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the redeem code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, put in the redeem code ON3, ON3, ON3 for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome back into the Rocky Top Rewind. I'm Eric Kane, Brent Hubbs, and Austin Price joining us here as we continue our conversation. Tennessee 45, Syracuse 26. Tennessee's 1-0. Austin Price joining us now. Austin had a night to sleep on it. I know you've been busy here on a Sunday, but more reaction, more thoughts, kind of 24 to 30 hours out from Tennessee's game.
I'm still trying to figure out how you change shirts so quick.
Magic trick.
Really, I thought solid opening performance when you factor in that first games, and we've seen plenty of them over the years, are just always kind of rusty. Like there's no NFL preseason type stuff for colleges. Yeah, they scrimmage and they do 11-on-11 work in practice, but it's still not the same as playing a game, getting into certain situations that you don't necessarily have in practice. You can try to simulate that stuff all you want, but nothing prepares you for 7 a.m. Hey, Jesse Perry, you're playing right tackle. David Sanders is not going to be a go. All those type of things that happen in the course of a game. I thought it was a really solid performance. I thought defensively they can continue to get better. They can improve. They've got to be better in stopping the run. They've got to get healthy. They got to get healthy in the defensive interior. They got to try to get healthy in the secondary. And then offensively, they just continue to gel more. The receivers just get a little bit more crisp. Joey, I thought, was a really solid first outing. The running backs did their thing, and since I've beat the drum for months and months and months, I'm super impressed by the offensive line.
David Sanders expected back next week, obviously. You mentioned the offensive line. Jesse Perry bumps out from right guard to right tackle. Sham gets his first start in there. I think this kind of, and Brent mentioned this a moment ago, it shows that Glenn Ellerbe in Tennessee, very comfortable with seven guys up front. And that's got to be a good feeling kind of going into a schedule where it's going to get pretty difficult here in 2 weeks when Georgia comes to town.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, you brought up the point when we were taping the 2-minute drill of Tennessee got to play kind of their fire drill contingency plan yesterday in game number 1. So they fared pretty well, Brent. And so what's it going to look like when they have their A team, right? I mean, what's it look like with Jesse Perry at right guard and David Sanders at right tackle? or is maybe potentially just because Jesse's a little bit bigger and a little heavier, is he more suited for right tackle right now maybe than even David Sanders is? I guess we'll see. David's got to play some snaps first and see what happens. But, I think you have to like where they're at on the offensive line.
Well, I think if you're Josh Heupel, I think you're happy you got to win. And then the other happiness is you got to throw some guys into some adverse situations to see how they would respond. And obviously you saw the response from the offensive line. I think you saw a response from Nathan Robinson. Now you got to get him healthy and figure out a way to keep him healthy. Can you bubble wrap him this weekend and let him get? I mean, his ankle's pretty, is pretty banged up. So we'll see where he's at as the week progresses. But there was just a lot of guys got thrown into critical situations, and not necessarily the scheduled situation, are put in when the game was completely out of reach. You're throwing guys in and playing guys in some critical times. That's going to pay off for you. I'm not saying in 2 weeks, but that's going to pay off for you at some point in the season where some guys had to play. I mean, Jaden Harmon's in the game, right?
Yeah. He's productive too.
The game's not over. I mean, there's still a chance that Syracuse, with a touchdown could make that a real deal. So I think that was a blessing. Maybe you didn't want all the injuries, obviously, but I think it was a blessing that some of those guys got put into that scenario, and Josh and his staff had to deal with that scenario.
I will tell you this: like on a guy like Nathan Robinson, to me, like it's easy to say, when in doubt, don't play him this weekend. Got to get ready for next week. But Nathan Robinson's still not playing a whole lot of football, so he could really use the reps. So like, it's one of those tightrope situations where you're like trying to tightrope the Grand Canyon if you're Rodney Garner versus like he needs the work, but we need him healthy. And what comes first, chicken or the egg? How do you do both? Like, it's more difficult, I think, for a coach than just like, hey, set him, because I think ultimately deep down he knows Nathan needs some more repetition, more work before he plays at Georgia.
Well, here's a guy who's had a hard time staying healthy, for one, and two, you don't know where Jackson Moy is in this thing right now, and I think the Jackson Moy injury might help you make that tightrope decision that you're talking about, Austin, because I mean, a guy like Jamal Wallace needs a lot of reps, right? Ethan Utley needs more reps. They got to get Isaiah Campbell on the field some. I think a lot of that will depend on what that looks like with Jackson Moy. Where is he at? Is that how long of a term deal is that? What exactly is he dealing with right there? I think that's the question. That's the question on my mind as Tennessee enters this week to get ready for ETSU.
Question for both of you guys. Why didn't Isaiah Campbell get any looks yesterday, considering where they were at defensive tackle? And on that note, AP, what about Jordan Burns, man? I mean, and I know at points in times they like to keep it Mike, Will, Mike, but you get in there against Alabama, it's Edwin Spillman, go play whichever one needs you, right? Like, where was Jordan Burns yesterday as well? We saw a lot. We saw Ains a little bit. We saw Ben Bolton. Where were those two guys?
Well, I thought you were going to go into that. Mike, what day is it? Hump day? I couldn't answer on Jordan Burns. I think with Isaiah Campbell, it was time and place in the game. I think that he'll definitely get more run this week, and we'll see where things go. Based on my talks with people, Ben Bolton just had a better fall camp than Jordan Burns did and earned the playing time. And when he got in yesterday, took advantage of the snaps that he got.
I think that's something to monitor, certainly, as time goes on a little bit. Here's a star question that I thought was really interesting. Ryan wants to know, why was the new injury rule not implemented last night at some point? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that an NCAA rule or an SEC rule? And even so, that's so hard to monitor, because how in the world can you go out there and I know it looks completely obvious, but like, you can't go out there and say you're faking, you're not hurt, and they're like, oh, you want to bet? I came into this game at 70%. Like, it's just it's tough to monitor. But having said that, yesterday there were so many fake injuries. I saw it on rewatch. I mean, it's all over college football, and obviously it looks like nothing's being done about it.
I think the only part of that rule that they're going to really be able to implement, because it takes away the speculation of stuff, is if the ball's marked ready for play and you flop, then it's going to cost you. It's going to cost your team a timeout. I think that one's easier to regulate, if you will. Otherwise, this whole is he not, and all that type of thing. That's unfortunate. I'm watching Colorado, Georgia Tech Friday night. That poor kid from Georgia Tech had cramps, man. He was trying to get off the field, and he locked up. Like, the ball was marked for play. The official put it down, and he was trying all he could to get to the sideline, and it was just belly flop time because he had locked up. It cost Georgia Tech a timeout, which you hate to see that happen in the rule because the kid wasn't faking anything. But I think that they're going to be able to implement that rule. The rest of this stuff, I don't know. I mean, how are you going to guess who's got, I think that's the one you're going to see on somewhat of a consistent basis is if the ball's marked ready for play, if it's spotted and marked ready for play, then that they can regulate that one pretty easily.
AP, one of the big talking points coming out of the game, obviously injuries. Brett and I have talked a little bit about Moy. A couple other guys went down. Ricky Gibson went down. Ty Redmond went down. Some of these guys came back, right? Arion Carter came back. Nathan Robinson came back. Anything you're hearing here on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, I guess, about the injury status of Tennessee heading into the new week?
The last I checked, they had not. I mean, the medical people had not met with the staff. To go over the full scope of everything. But based off all my conversations with people, nothing was deemed to be like season ending or anything like that. I mean, we'll see what happens, going forward. We'll see what happens with, the kids this week. Again, we talked about this a minute ago. When in doubt, you probably sit some players like a Jackson Moy probably is not going to play this week as, they try to get him healthy. But I think, again, it's a delicate tightrope with some of these players. I think Ricky Gibson's one that I would think would get some more run this week and get back and would play. But, again, he's not going to play a whole lot if you take care of business against ETSU the way you're supposed to.
Yeah, for me, the only one that's a real unknown right now is what's Jackson Moy's deal. I don't think I think Ricky's going to be fine. David Sanders is going to be fine. Nathan Robinson's got a really sore, puffy ankle that may take a little bit, but I mean, he was in a brace and taped up and ready to go back out there in the fourth quarter. So he could have continued to play. So I think ultimately he's going to be okay. But to me, the unknown right now is where's Jackson Moy, and we'll find out what the latest is on that here hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah, on rewatch you could actually, I think it was the last time Nathan Robinson went down. He went down twice, but the last time you could see him saying, just bring me some tape, trying to tape it back up and get going. Brett and I talked about this a little bit, AP, but man, some of these young guys, I was so impressed with Ty Redmond. And Idris Farouk, a couple times in real time, I'm like, got to get that. But, like, he flashed so much. And then he flashed even more on rewatch. Caleb Beasley flashed a little bit. They sent Caleb Beasley on the blitz one time, and as soon as Angeli let go of the ball, Caleb Beasley just threw him to the dirt, man. I liked a lot that I saw from some of these young guys, but specifically those defensive backs. Ty Redmond's going to be a really good player. He's long. He's physical. He didn't blink. 60 snaps, game one as a true freshman.
Well, and that's the facts. Is like you look at like the snap count for Bryson Eason, Dom Bailey. I mean, these kids were 65 to 68 snaps. I mean, they've got to trim some of that down, and that even includes guys like Ty Redmond. You want to try to get healthier. You have to find a competitive balance. I think Boo getting more help on defense is a good thing. I think, Jalen McMurray having flexibility to play corner, to play slot, or not slot, but nickel is a good thing. They've just got to continue to lean on some of these young guys, though, as they continue to progress. You're right. Farouk, Beasley, they're only going to get better. Mm-hmm. They're only going to feel more comfortable and see the game slow down for them. Same thing with Ty Redmond. For him, and I made this joke, I even made it on the locker room tonight. He got more pass breakups and a half, wearing number 4.
I've heard that joke 4 times in
4 years. And I mean, I know I'm being tongue in cheek there, but I mean, like he really the speed of it did not bother him at all. And so you want to see that continue on with all of these young guys because there's been such an emphasis this offseason to push them to the field, you have to see them continue to progress.
I'll say this: Tennessee will play good receivers, some better receivers along the way. That collection of talent that Syracuse has at receivers, pretty good. I mean, they can run. That's a pretty good test. I thought for a freshman, Redmond was obviously terrific, but I didn't know how well Farouk could play in space, and I thought he was pretty good in space. I thought he covered the middle of the field pretty well, and I know this coaching staff is really excited about kind of where he is. They like Edris a lot. I thought he played. I thought he was really solid in that outing on Saturday.
Question here from Colton. Colton wants to know, he expected more passes to the tight ends, not complaining, just thought they'd be try to use them more. Something I watched or I noticed on rewatch, they got down in the red zone. They threw it to him. Kitzelman obviously had a touchdown. Kitzelman set up Peyton Lewis's touchdown. They threw it to Ethan Davis on a slant. It was incomplete. They utilized those tight ends in the red zone in the passing game specifically.
And I think you'll see them use the tight ends more. I do. I mean, I think Ethan Davis. I think Ethan Davis is a guy that you can use in a lot of different ways, and I think you've got to get him involved and keep him involved in the passing game. I thought he blocked well yesterday. I thought that's as physical as he's been, Austin, in his Tennessee career. The extra weight showed, the weight room work showed. I think you'll see them incorporate the tight ends more, and I think you want to get Ethan Davis involved in some of that. Tennessee didn't show everything. I think there's still some stuff that they've been working on this offseason that's still out there. But they got back in that two tight end set. I think they're pretty comfortable with Davis and Kitzelman in that one.
They are very comfortable, and you're right. I think when the game plays out the way it played out, you don't have to, throw the whole kitchen sink at the opposing team. And certainly Tennessee did not do that yesterday. They ran some two tight end stuff, and we'll kind of see what they like to do going forward as far as throwing them the ball more versus not throwing them the ball. But super impressed by, you're right, Ethan Davis's physicality in that football game.
Another question here from General. Aside from Aguilar, who was a pleasant surprise on offense? For me, it was Star Thomas. Star Thomas played well. Really took over that fourth quarter. That last touchdown drive, I think, for Miles Kitzelman, Star Thomas had 49 yards on the ground on that drive. So he took over that last drive that led to the Miles Kitzelman touchdown. Played a lot in the fourth quarter, played a lot in the second half, had the 7-yard reception on the scramble drill. Something Brent, me and Austin were talking about just sitting up there. Man, he runs so hard, like really hard. He looks like an experienced guy that's played in the ACC, that's played a lot of college football. And all three of those guys deserve to play. Like, there's nothing about Peyton Lewis's performance that deserves to have snaps taken away from him. Deshaun Bishop impacted the game on the ground and through the air yesterday. It's something we said coming into the season. It's a great problem to have if you're Darrell Sims. But, again, you got three mouths that need to eat, and it's going to be challenging as the season goes on.
I think the real challenging part of it is what does do they continue to do the rotation like they have done it, like they did it on Saturday? Because can you get somebody in a rhythm if it's series, next guy? I mean, how much are those guys going to be pressing to try to get into a rhythm? Because when's your second series going to come about? It's a good problem to have. They've obviously managed it through the years before. They've always kind of had two, and then they had a freshman. This is kind of three older guys, with Peyton Lewis, I guess, being the youngest of those. Austin. It's a good problem, but it was going to take a lot of maturity out of that room to manage this thing with three guys like that all the way through the season.
Absolutely. The one impressive thing to me is, in fact, when you look at Star Thomas, his lower half, not very big. Like you look at Peyton Lewis, his thighs, his calves are all relatively big for a tailback. Star Thomas is not. He's got like little skinny legs, but he runs like a guy who's got a bigger lower half. He runs tough. He runs physical, and he's got some wiggle to him, some explosiveness. So, really impressive seeing him for the first time that actually matters on Saturday.
I was, with Peyton Lewis on his touchdown run. They had a zero technique, and they had a stack backer there in the middle. The left guard in the center tried to combo up to the backer. You had Perry that flipped around from right tackle into kind of lead block. Maybe Perry should have looked inside of that middle linebacker, but he was kicking that outside linebacker out. It was one-on-one for Peyton Lewis in the hole in that B gap. And Peyton Lewis just ran him over. And that was Tennessee's first touchdown of the season, first touchdown of the day. That was an incredibly good-looking play right there for Peyton Lewis and for Tennessee. So that's something that stood out on tape for me for sure. We got a special guest joining us right here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Former Tennessee quarterback, Jarrett Guarantano, joining the show. Jarrett, can you hear us?
Yeah, what's up, fellas? How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. Really appreciate you joining the show and hanging out with us. Let's jump down into it, man. Let's get your thoughts. Tennessee went over Syracuse in week 1. What'd you think?
So a dominating win. Obviously, you like to see all three facets of the game, special teams, offense, and defense working together. And I thought that they really showed it well. Obviously, we saw our turnover offensively and our defense pick us up. And then defensively, we let up a touchdown. First play offense, long score on the post. So I thought we played really good team football. Obviously, we were missing some key pieces defensively. I think when those guys come back, we'll be even more dominating on defense, especially with Tim Banks calling the defense. He did an excellent job on week 1. But it was a lot of positives, I thought. There wasn't really many negatives going into this one.
Jarrett, I'm going to ask you this because you experienced this playing in multiple offensive systems throughout your football career. How impressed are you that Joey Aguilar comes to a new system, a vastly different system? After learning a new one in January, in the early spring at UCLA, he comes to Knoxville in May, learns one this summer, and then plays the way he did in week 1. From a quarterback standpoint, what stands out to you about that?
Yeah, I think obviously you can tell that Joey's a smarter kid for him to be able to grasp the offense that quickly. But it's also a huge testament to Coach Heupel. I think the simplicity also with the diversity in the offense shows different things, and it allows the quarterback to play free. Like I feel like for defensively, you're looking at that offense and you have a lot to think about, especially with the tempo and the formations and being able to cover people with space and speed. But then for quarterback wise, you're really just looking for numbers. You're looking for space. You're looking at tempo. So if you're in that offense, I think you have a little bit more freedom than probably if he was at UCLA. I mean, obviously I watched the game last night. It wasn't a fun watch, to be honest, but if you watch offensively, I think Coach Heupel is able to get the best out of his players. And obviously with only such little time for Joey to kind of grasp it, it shows that Coach Heupel is a really good teacher and he has really good staff that helps the quarterbacks and wide receivers get to their max potential.
Jarrett, I'm watching the comments over here, man. And you took a beating during your time here and had 4,000 different, quarterbacks, coaches, and offensive coordinators and everything else. To see the fans react to you this way, when there probably were some not so nice things said when you were playing quarterback, like how much does that kind of make you appreciate just, being a little older and liking some of this stuff now?
Yeah, I think, also it's funny because every time I tweet something or anytime I get any type of comment back, I feel like I have to just throw water on my face because I think I'm living in a dream after all the things that obviously I've witnessed in the past from the fans and the things that were said. Being able to see and feel like the presence of the Tennessee fans, like kind of giving some love back to me, it's been absolutely awesome. I always felt in my heart that Tennessee was home and like it never changed for me. Obviously it felt a little bit different when some fans or media kind of just threw that right back in my face. And I understand why. Obviously everybody wanted us to succeed and win football games and just as much as I did. But at that time, it was a little bit tougher to see and feel the love back. Now it's awesome to feel that welcome back. And I hope I can just stay intact with Tennessee because it really is my home. I grew up here. I learned more about myself than I ever have in my entire life in Knoxville at the university wearing orange. So it'll always be deep rooted in me. And I'm so thankful for those opportunities that I had there. Obviously, I wish that we won more games. Yeah, I dream about winning an SEC championship or beating Georgia and Alabama all the time. But God did certain things for me in that fashion, so I can't go against his ways and his thoughts. I'm just thankful that I got the opportunity to play in Tennessee for that school,
Jarrett, on that note, man, it's the home opener coming up on Saturday, and I know it's Georgia's in 2 weeks. It's not an SEC game; it's ECSU, but some of these transfers, these freshmen, going to be running through the tee for the first time. I mean, what are they going to be feeling? Excitement, nerves? I mean, what's it like your first time playing in Neyland?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Obviously, it's going to be the home openers versus a team that we should be able to play very well and kind of get those guys to actually be in those games. But the first time being able to run and see the fans and feel the atmosphere and doing the Vol Walk and seeing the kids smiling and seeing jerseys on, I remember those things like it was yesterday, right? I swear to you, I dream about those and I daydream about it because there's nothing like it in college football. And as a recruit, I remember people always ask me, why'd you go to Tennessee? I was like, you guys have no idea. You wouldn't understand. Those little things and every single thing about the community and about that alumni base and the fan base, there's nothing better. So I'm jealous that the kids get to do it for the first time all over again. But I hope they really embrace it, and I hope the GoPros and they got the Meta glasses. I hope they're rocking those because if I can go travel back in time to see that and feel that again, I got the chills right now thinking about it.
What's your thought on the season overall? Obviously, off to a good start with 1-0, but with everything that transpired, you and I talked last December, and I don't think we haven't talked about on the record, what our thoughts were for this season. But since then, quarterback leaves, and there's been a little bit of a transition. You look at the schedule; it's a very never going to call it easy, but it's a very manageable schedule the way it lays out. Seeing what you have coming back and returning starters and all that. What's your thought process on what this season can be, and did it change at all after you saw Tennessee beat Syracuse?
Yeah, I think going into the game, I did something with a radio station in Nashville. I talked about all the unknowns, right? I talked about the 4 new starting offensive linemen. Obviously, I didn't know that our offensive tackle, our freshman, was going to be injured and miss the game. But I was talking about the 4 new starting offensive linemen. I was talking about how we weren't going to be able to have David, or we weren't going to be able to have McCoy. So there was a lot of unknowns and guys that were going to have to step up. And surprisingly so, I thought that everybody filled their role and everybody did their job, right? And obviously you have a new quarterback, you have new weapons offensively, you have a whole new running back group. Samson kind of took the load last year. I know we had Bishop, but Samson was kind of the main guy. There's so many unknowns, and it was so fulfilling to see the guys step up in that manner, and especially on national TV to be able to get out to a hot start. I look at the schedule. I think it's comparatively compared to the rest of the SEC teams, I would say that it's one of the more manageable schedules. Obviously, you're going to have games like the SEC's. No game is going to be easy test, So every single week, you're going to try to focus on going 1-0. You look at the big games. Obviously, you look at Oklahoma looked very impressive with John Mateer. We got our real first home test in 2 weeks versus UGA. That'll be a really good, really interesting one to see where we're at as a team. But I think if we're able to keep up with the ebbs and flows and continuously playing really good defense like we showed capability of doing yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised to see us 9 wins. I think 9 wins would really be a really good mark for the team. Obviously, I know everybody's looking for 10, 11, but just the way that the SEC format is and how difficult the schedule can be just from going and versing SEC opponents. I think 8, if you can win 9 games a year, I think you're doing something really special.
JG, man, we appreciate you coming on with us.
Oh, real quick. I know Austin, I know I said I was wrapping it up, but let me get this question in real quick before we say goodbye to JG. JG, what's your favorite memory at Tennessee? This is from Matthew who wrote in.
Favorite memory? I don't know. That's the funny thing. I've had so many. Obviously, there were some bad moments. There were some things that I wish I had back, but there were so many amazing moments. I think of the Hail Mary at Kentucky. Obviously, I think about Auburn, being in Auburn away as a sophomore. I think of the comeback in Kentucky junior year with a broken hand. I think of my best game ever was Mizzou. So there was so many. It's so hard to draw from just one special memory, but I think junior year was the most special time because it was the hardest, and I was battling a lot of things, and for myself, and being able to overcome those things and playing with a broken hand. I think the perseverance of that, I think being able to have that surgery on the Tuesday and then playing on the Saturday and not feeling good at all and just being able to go out there for my teammates and say, just lay it all on the line, whether we won or lost, but I knew I was going to give my all. I think that was my favorite all the time because that's when I learned the most about myself.
Well, man, we appreciate you coming on. You've always been a pleasure to deal with, dating all the way back to when we were in New York City with you. And, you reminded me more of your dad tonight than maybe you ever did when you were here. I'm getting old,
talk.
hearing you talk and everything. So, and we hope Karen and Jim and Victoria are all doing well. And where you at now?
I'm back. I'm in New Jersey right now. I'm feeling some New Jersey sun. I'm down the shore a little bit, but I made a plea that I was going to come to at least 2 to 3 Tennessee games a year. So you guys will see me walking around somewhere. Good. Listen, last year we went 1-0. I went to the Alabama one and we went 1-0. I was fulfilled enough. I left in the first quarter. I was like, I'm good. Like, that's all I needed. I don't got to come back. But we were 1-0 last year. Hopefully I can bring some good juju again this year.
Well, man, we appreciate you coming on with us, and hopefully we can have you on in the future, okay?
Absolutely. Miss you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jarrett. Appreciate you, man.
See.
Jarrett Guarantano, former Tennessee quarterback, here joining us on the Rocky Top Rewind. That was fun. That was a good callback. Good job, AP, for getting that last moment.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I love that he's just so transparent about, like, a lot of things I wish I could have back. I'm sure there are. I'm sure deep down he wishes he could have stuck around in 21 and played for Josh Heupel. And it just didn't work out. Tennessee needed a different quarterback at the time. But, I mean, I think a different coach, a different set of circumstances. The kid had talent. You never know. I mean, look at Hendon Hooker. It's not like he set the world on fire at Virginia Tech, got here with a different set of eyes coaching him and a new outlook and performed well. And you wish Jarrett would have had that opportunity as well. And even with all that, he hung around the NFL for a year or two. So, I mean, kudos to him.
For Jarrett Guarantano, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. I thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Rocky Top Rewind. We're going to do it every Sunday night, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on the Volquest YouTube channel. And so we're going to recap and react to what Tennessee did this past Saturday. Moving forward, of course, next Sunday we'll talk a lot about the Georgia game coming up, and we'll have some fun guests like Jarrett Guarantano from time to time, hopefully. But we'll have some more fun guests throughout the season as well, right here on the Rocky Top Rewind. Stay dialed into Volquest.com. We've had tons of coverage over there on the site today. More to come tomorrow. Josh Heupel's going to be with the media at noon tomorrow, 12:15. He'll tell us, maybe give us an injury update on some of these guys and so much more as ETSU week. You laugh. You don't think you will? What's going on?
Kane's been drinking, Hubs. He's calling for injury updates on Mondays of a non-SEC week, no less.
Here's the wishful thinking, right? Plenty of stuff going on the website over at Volquest.com. Big thanks to Spivey King and Spivey LLP for joining us, or for being the presenting sponsor of the Rocky Top Rewind each and every Sunday night. Thank you guys for the questions. We'll do it again Sunday night. This is Volquest.com.